Today's interview is with Terry Gautreaux. Not only is she the 1992 bronze medal Olympian in the sport of TaeKwonDo, but she was also my primary martial arts instructor. Terry and her husband Oren are not only decorated martial artists, but also business partners. Terry is now an avid runner, having completed numerous marathons. However, her current goal includes being able to walk again after recovering from surgery to repair her hip. Terry's story and insight are sure to motivate you to reach you for your highest potential. Welcome back to Big Boss Mare with Brandy Von Holten. Today I actually have two guests. I have Terry Gautreaux and I have Kirsten Jones. Okay, so Terry, how old are you?
I am 52 years old.
52. Okay, so she is not used to running around on crutches, but right now she's got some crutches with her. She's had them for a little bit. So tell us what you just had happen to your hip.
So I had 2 tears in my labrum, and I had a torn tendon in my gluteus median. So all of that was repaired and fixed, and now I'm just waiting to heal.
Okay, waiting to heal. Okay, so Terry, you are from Blue Springs, right?
Correct.
And is that where you were born and raised here in Missouri?
I was. I went to Blue Springs schools all the way through, graduated from Blue Springs High School.
Okay. All right. So, and now Kirsten, how old are you?
25.
25. Now, what do you do for a living?
Right now I'm an EMT in Independence, Missouri.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And so how long have you done that?
I've been an EMT about 5 years now.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So the reason that I brought Terry and Kirsten on to Big Boss Mare is because these two ladies were around whenever I was on the martial arts team, okay? But not just around, okay? Terry actually won a bronze medal in the 1992 Olympics. And then Kirsten, I don't know if Kirsten, were you a heavyweight or a middleweight whenever we were on the team together?
I did both, middle and heavy.
Middle and heavy. And I don't know, we never fought against each other in competition, so you must have been in the youth division. Yeah.
Yep. Just in class.
Yeah, just in class. Yeah, we kicked the living crap out of each other a lot. It's nice to have another female heavyweight, but you're considered heavyweight at, what's the 156, 158?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were most definitely there. Mm-hmm. We were safe.
Yes. Comfortable.
Yeah, I was very comfortable. Yeah, at about 245, I barely made it. I know that I've went to some competitions before and weighed in while I was eating, you know?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Never had to cut weight.
Yeah, we were in those wonderful divisions where we got to eat the day before a competition. A lot of people didn't because there's like, how many weight divisions are there in Olympic Taekwondo, Terry?
The weight divisions are consolidated now, and so there's 4 weight divisions, 4 men, 4 women. When I was competing, there were 8 divisions. Prior to my competition, there were 10 weight divisions when it first came out and was on the early years of sport Taekwondo. So it's kind of evolved over time.
Okay. So what weight division did you used to compete in?
Well, I started in bantamweight, which is my natural weight.
Okay.
And then...
So nobody knows what those numbers are. They're probably thinking you said Batman. It's
so
Bantam.
Bantamweight. So
okay, so what is that?
Bantamweight is the 3rd weight division.
Okay, from the bottom.
From the bottom. So that was, the top of it was 112 point something. And so that was kind of a natural weight for me. And so I fought in that division for a couple of years, and I did pretty good. I won juniors. I took 3rd in seniors.
Now, when you say juniors and seniors, you mean like national championships?
Yes. So I won junior nationals, and then I moved up into seniors, and I took 3rd in senior nationals in that weight division. And then I went through a couple of years where I didn't do so good in that weight division. And so I decided at that point, and I don't remember what made me to make that decision other than maybe watching the other division, but I decided I needed to drop a weight division. And it's because the people in the 112 division were so much taller than me.
Yeah, how tall are you? Here, let me guess. 5'2".
That's it.
Ooh, okay.
But I was fighting people who were 5'6", 5'7".
Right.
And so I decided to drop a weight division. So then I dropped to flyweight, and then I stayed in flyweight for the next 5 or 6 years.
You know, it's really hard for me to have any sympathy for you fighting somebody that's 5'6", because I fought women that were, I think the tallest lady was 6'5". It was a lady named Wang from China. And whenever they told us to match up, I thought, I thought it was a man. Okay, so I'm over here trying to have sympathy, and I'm all like, you know. With fighting in the heavyweight division, those girls get tall, especially from like Minnesota and Mexico. I don't know why. Those two places always have some girls that they never stopped growing, and they fell in love with the sport of Olympic Taekwondo.
They did.
What's the tallest girl you ever fought, Kirsten?
Oh, gosh. So I'm 5'4", so probably, I don't know, 5'10", 5'11".
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think they're around there.
Yeah, I fought a girl before, and I didn't go to her collarbone.
You're like, how am I going to do this?
I know. I'm all like, well, we'll be kicking to the stomach today, hopefully. Okay, so let's talk about these weight divisions. The bottom one is called fin weight, F-I-N, fin. Then there's fly weight, which is below bantam. So it goes fin, fly, bantam, and then
Feather.
And then welter.
Light.
Oh, light. Okay.
Then
And
welter.
Okay.
Then middle, then heavy.
All right, so let's go again. So fin, fly, bantam, feather, light, welter, middle, heavy.
Correct.
Okay, it's hard for me to care about 7 of those. You know, I always just cared about heavyweight, you know. Anyway, okay. Oh, you know what? I think feather, like that's a cute sound. I bet it's gotta really suck for a guy to fight in featherweight. Yeah, I don't know. It's just not a real masculine
or fin
weight. Yeah, but that's like a fly on a water buffalo, though. They are like pew 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 pew. You don't see. Well, my experience is in like boxing and kickboxing, you don't see a lot of knockouts in the lighter divisions, but whenever people get heavier is when you see a bunch of knockouts because they've got the mass plus the momentum. But I've also seen some little guys knock some people out, and women. Okay, so you dropped down to flyweight. How awful was that to cut weight?
Well, flyweight was 103.4. And so...
Wait, is that the bottom or the top?
That's the top of the division.
103?
103.4.
That's
small.
That's small.
So,
wow, because you're normally 112, so that
112, 115.
Whoa, okay, that's a lot of, because like, all right, you know, with being a larger person, like I could drop 15 pounds in like 2 days if I needed to, you know, whatever. But for you to drop 2 pounds, 3 pounds is a big deal. Really
hard.
Well, then to drop 9 pounds.
Really hard.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't even imagine that right there. Yeah, big people, it's all like, okay, I'll cut out pop for 2 days and, you know. Just keep using the bathroom and then you lose weight. Okay, so, all right. So tell us about how you would get mental focus to be able to cut weight.
Actually, the mental part of it actually helped. It actually not helped, but it was an indicator of how I was going to fight. So on the years that I was super focused and really mentally focused for competition, I could cut weight pretty easy. On the years that I was letting outside things influence my competition or my mental training, those tough years, it was really hard to cut weight. And especially back when I was competing, that was so long ago, there wasn't a whole lot of information out, especially in our sport, on the right and the wrong ways to cut weight. Mm-hmm. And so it really was, for the most part, if you were having to cut weight, you just didn't eat. You didn't eat, you cut out water, you know, like it was... You just did whatever you had to do to make weight. That was what you did, whatever you had to do. So actually how close I kept to my weight category was an indicator of how focused I was in my training at that point.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about so the year of the Olympics, you went, and the lady that actually won silver, you had actually beaten her before?
I had.
Okay, so, man, that right there, like, oh, yeah, you got to love that bronze medal, but you know you were good enough to at least have silver. And then did you ever spar the lady that had won gold before?
Yeah, so the person I lost to in semis was the girl who went on to win. So I fought Spain in the semifinals, fought Spain in Spain. Nothing like the entire arena cheering against you.
Oh, yeah.
And she was the darling of Spain. So, like, she was... You know, she was just the sweetheart of their sport, and so yeah, the whole crowd erupted for her.
The whole crowd wanted this little 5'2" blonde-haired lady to get her butt handed to her. Huh? Okay, so the lady that got second, what country was she from?
She was from Italy, and I had just fought her. So the Olympics were in August. I had just fought her in February at the U.S. Open and had beat her pretty decisively. And so
I bet that lady sure is happy about how the seeding for the competition went, or the bracketing.
Sure.
Okay. And then were there 2 bronzes given? Because a lot of time in our sport, there's a first, a second, and there's 2 bronzes.
Correct.
Okay. Who ended up with the other bronze?
Turkey. Right.
Okay. So it went Spain, Italy, USA, and Turkey.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, so tell me about the mental mindset you had to go into that round that you had not won at the Olympics. So going into it, did you think that you could win that match? Or do you remember being like, oh no, what am I going to do the next round? You know what I'm saying? Because I've went into something before and been like, okay, well, let me get this one over with, and then I'm going to just try to get myself up out of that loser's bracket to do as best as I can. Or the lady that you were with whenever you went to go against Spain, like, what did that feel like going into that round?
I had about 18 months before the Olympics, I had started seeing a sports psychologist because I knew that I always believed in myself and what I was capable of doing, even in the rough years when if I had a year where I just really didn't do well and I was losing, I always believed that I was capable of doing more. And so about 18 months prior to the Olympics, it was suggested by one of the parents of one of the people I trained with, one of the kids I trained with, that he knew of a really awesome sports psychologist that he thought could help me. And so Dr. Andrew Jacobs is who I went to see, and he's a sports psychologist in Kansas City, worked a lot with the Chiefs and a lot of professional athletes. So I went to see him, and he is probably one of the biggest reasons I was able to make it in my sport as far as I was, because he taught me to prepare myself mentally. So while I was at the Olympics, that was before cell phones and all that, there was a phone booth that athletes could use for free of charge where you could call home. And so before the Olympics, I went to see him every week to help work on my mental game. And then while I was at the Olympics, I called him every week and still had my same sessions with him. And so I think that helped me at the Olympics as far as going into, I don't really remember prior to each match thinking, oh my gosh, I'm getting ready to fight, Mexico, or oh my gosh, I'm getting ready to fight Spain, and like who they were. Or I just, it wasn't something I focused on. That was part of my mental training, is not to focus on the other player. And so any of the matches I went into, at no point did I think I didn't have a shot to win, because I just believed that I could.
Okay. All right. So whenever you're now in Blue Springs and you own Gautreaux Martial Arts, you co-own with your husband.
Right.
His name is Oren.
Correct.
Oren.
That's right.
Yeah. And what nationality is that name from?
Gautreaux is French.
It's French. Okay. So you wouldn't know that by looking at him. I mean, y'all just look like you're Missouri. Okay. So y'all are in Blue Springs, and I actually moved from Arkansas to Missouri by myself to train with you and your husband, but mostly you. I got Mr. G for free. He was like a bonus round. But I know that you had recommended a book called Mind Gym, like MIND and then GYM, Mind Gym. And we also, while I did competitive martial arts for 23 years, you had us talk to sports psychologists. I know that you had gymnastics instructors come in. We went and trained with other martial arts instructors. I mean, there was all sorts of mental preparation that happened in addition to lots of physical preparation. What do you think the importance of mental prep is for any kind of athlete or any kind of person that's trying to get into something that they're new at, or that, any kind of sport, or like marathon running or anything?
I think the difficult part for most people is if they have a weakness, being able to voice what the weakness is and ask for help. I think sometimes they think it's looked down upon, that you had to ask for help, for someone to help you train your mind when, you know, a lot of times people are like, just try harder, you know, just think positive. Well, that's really easy for someone to say who's not in, especially I think, a super high competitive sport. Like when you get to the elite levels, you know, you hear a lot of criticism on professional athletes on, you know, what do they have to complain about because they have this and they have that and they have this and they have that. Well, all of those things come with a sacrifice, and a lot of that sacrifice is their mental, just the mental stuff that they have to deal with. And so being a high profile athlete, or being an athlete that's competing at the highest level, the stress that you feel and the pressure that you feel is unlike anything. It's unlike anything that I had ever felt. Because I remember being at the Olympics and the stress being so high being there that I thought, I don't know how people do this for more than one Olympics. I don't understand how they do it, because it's constant. It's from the time you wake up till the time you go to bed. But then when the Olympics are over, you're like, oh my gosh, that was the greatest thing I've ever done in my life. I can't wait to do it again. And so you go through all these emotional highs and lows. And so you need somebody to help you keep all that in perspective. But then that also can be said for just the everyday athlete, the one who has to juggle work and their children and their private time and all that kind of stuff. They have that same pressure of knowing that they need to do something for themselves in order to continue to build their mental self, because if you mentally struggle in one area, it's going to filter into another area. So I think that being able to mentally get through challenges and struggles is a part of everyday life for everyone, and I think you need to pay attention to it.
I know that something that I remember reading in one of the many books, and it might have been Mind Gym, was it's easier to become a champion than to remain a champion.
Absolutely. Because
you put your own pressure on yourself. After you've won a national title, it's hard to win it again because you self-doubt yourself. You're like, well, that was just a fluke, or I only won because that other person had a bad day, or there's no way that I'm really a national champion. You know, like, it's just so much easier whenever you're a nobody to just be like, I'm going to try really hard and I'm going to give it my best and I'm going to work and I'm going to work. And then to become that national champion, after you're on that podium, you're like, wait, I don't deserve this. Surely I'm not the best in the, I'm from some little bitty town in Texas and then, moved to Arkansas. There's no way I could be a national champion. So can you speak on that for a little bit about it's easier to become a champion than to remain a champion? Well, hold on. Kirsten, yes. What do you think about that? I seen you nod your head.
No, it's very true, though, because I remember just going to different competitions. If I had just come off a win, being like, well, can I really do this again? Or, maybe I just had a good day, or I had an easy bracket of people to beat. So I agree with that completely.
I remember one time let me think here. Oh, I remember. Had a competition. I knocked this girl's front 2 teeth out. Okay, well, actually, oh my God, everybody's going to think we're so evil because 3 of us just laughed. So I knocked this lady's front 2 teeth out.
I was coaching you when you did that.
Oh, yeah. And then the next weekend, I got a black eye, and it was awful because I'm still on like, I knocked this girl front 2 teeth out. And then 7 days later, black eye.
Yep.
And so then I'm trying to tell people dude, 2 weeks ago I knocked this girl's front teeth. And they're like, well, looks like she got a hit in. And I'm like, no, that's another girl.
I promise I'm good.
I only got to have the glory of knocking those front 2 teeth out, right there on the team for 7 days. Because then I'm walking around with some drag queen makeup on at work, trying to cover up my purple and black eyelid, trying to make the other one match. So anyways, yeah, it's easier to become a champion than to remain a champion. So what do you think about that, Terry?
Well, I think when you're coming up through the ranks, you feel like you've got nothing to lose. So if you're not the champion, you've got nothing to lose because you feel like no one has any expectations for you. And I think that's where athletes need to remember that the only person they're competing for is themselves. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. And once you become a champion, you put that pressure on you on what everybody else thinks. So it's the same thing. So whether or not you don't feel like you have any pressure going into it because nobody expects anything from you, or no, now I won and everybody expects something from me, you're putting your expectations on someone else instead of them being your own expectations. So, I think that's what you have to keep in perspective is you have to enjoy the process of what you're doing regardless of the outcome. So if I enjoy the process of getting up and training every day and knowing that I'm gaining something from it, then the outcome, you're not going to have that same, I think, feeling on the outcome because you feel positive in what you're doing regardless. I think a lot of people get caught up in that fear of failure. Oh my gosh, what if I put all this time into it and I fail? Well, then you're not putting the process into perspective, because again, every single day you get up and do something, you're moving forward and what you want to accomplish. And then if you're only thinking about the outcome, then you're not thinking about what you're gaining from the process. So if I had thought about that, like, oh my gosh, what if I don't make the Olympics? Then I would have been so focused on that instead of just going out there and competing and look what happens. So, right. Because I mean, really, like you just said, like I'm from Blue Springs, Missouri. I grew up playing softball, going to school, turning 16 and getting a car. Like I was just a normal kid growing up that just so happened to, I liked training. I liked what I was doing. I loved the martial arts. And I just followed that process, enjoyed what I was doing along the way. And it worked out the way it was supposed to because, that's what I did. So.
Okay. So there's another statement. That you had said to me one time, and it's now on the front of I sell personal planners, like to be able to help people get their day all set up and everything and focus on positivity, but then also get all their projects done. But on the front of that, it says, if anything matters...
Then everything matters.
Yes, then everything matters.
She told us all that.
Yeah. Well, it helps me out so much. Like here I am at a horse trail riding facility, and I know that if I don't go and take our shirts to go to the dry cleaners so we can look professional in 2 seconds, that... I don't know, it kind of like chews on me. Or if we have a competition coming up here that we're going to be hosting, we got to make sure we have groceries in the refrigerator or we're going to be eating something stupid like popcorn and a Pop-Tart at 11 o'clock at night and then feel like crap the next day. But for martial arts, if anything matters, everything matters. What that meant to me was I needed to do well at my job that I made income at so I could have my bills paid so then I could go to TaeKwonDo practice and not have that fear of not having my bills paid or something. Or if we were going to go and compete, I needed to not eat junk food, to make sure that I'm not like got too much acid in my stomach the next day. So like if anything matters, like if you're like, yeah, I want to win this gold medal, but then you're drinking or staying up late, or if you're not putting in the work, well then those things are all connected in like this huge web. So what do you think about that, Kirsten?
I remember when I was in high school, I went through a rough patch of like not doing my schoolwork and stuff like that, but I still loved to come and train. And so my parents were like, okay, well, you're going to stop going to TaeKwonDo because since that's what you like to do, you have to get your schoolwork in order. So then I had to go see Mr. and Mrs. G in the office, and she told me that. She said, if anything matters, everything matters. And I just remember I was like, okay, so in order to come back and do what I love to do, I have to, make sure I get my schoolwork done, make sure, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do at home. So I still remember that to this day, and it goes along just with, like you said, everything in life.
Right. Something that I always struggled with was, my husband, David, and I are married, but we don't have any kids. But a lot of times, TaeKwonDo, it was almost an obsession for me. And I had to make sure that I would spend time with him and we would still do things that were not TaeKwonDo so I could keep my marriage happy. Because my husband always kind of felt like sometimes he would get to feeling like second place instead of first place. He's the gold, TaeKwonDo was silver, but sometimes I would get those switched up and then I'd be like, ooh, all right, let's go out to eat, let's go to Mexico. I'd have to make sure and keep my marriage right. So you don't want to have a failed marriage and then a gold medal that you can't go home to share it with anybody. Right. So what do you think about if anything matters, everything matters?
Well, what I try to teach kids is that as you go through life, you either set up a life and a habit system of success or you set up a habit system of failure. And so what I try to help them understand is when you go through life, you can't be successful in just the things you like and be unsuccessful in the things you don't like, because pretty soon those unsuccessful things filter into your success part. So you can't just pick and choose what you're successful at. You're either successful at everything, or ultimately you end up being not successful at anything. And so all of that, comes with learning to prioritize. I think that people, and athletes especially, most people only see them when they're at the height of their career. They don't see everything that they had to accomplish along the way to get there, and all the struggles they had and what they had to overcome and how hard it was. They just think, oh, you just must have been a really good athlete or a really good player, and so it was so easy for you. And that's typically not the case for any athlete. They don't see the struggles, but what they learned along the way is they had to be successful in every part of their life to make that sporting event successful in their life. So like, for example, like right before I left for the Olympics, like I was finishing up college. I was going to Rockhurst here in Kansas City. And so.
And what's your degree in?
I have a degree in communications.
Okay.
And so.
Here we are using it.
I know. And so I had 2 weeks before team trials. I had team trials, and then I had finals, and then I left for the Olympics. Or no, actually, I think I had finals, and then I had team trials, and then I left for the Olympics because, we left to train X number of days out of the Olympics. And so, the whole time I was training, I was going to school full time, and I was working as well. And so it was really, remembering that I can't just be an athlete, because my education is what allows me to be whatever I want to be. And I felt really strong about that. And so I went to school full time the whole time I was training during all this time. And like I said, because I stuck with the process and believed in what I was doing, I graduated right before the Olympics, which then I had the Olympics. And so it was just it just worked out so well. But again, I attribute that to the fact that I stuck with the process. I didn't say I can't go to school because that makes it too hard. I knew it was hard, but it kept me focused. Okay,
so this right here, I'm trying to do a very unique interview with her, because I know a lot of people have been like, well, what got you into TaeKwonDo? And I'm trying not to be lame. Okay. But so I'm thinking right here, you graduated college right before team trials, right before the Olympics. Did you what I'm thinking? And there's so many people that like, man, getting that college degree is such a big deal. But it feels like it was like, okay, I got that degree. Okay, now I got to go to team trials. Like, did you ever take the time? Because as soon as you came back, then you had the Olympic medal. Did you ever get to just celebrate the college degree? Because it's a big deal.
It was a big deal. And in fact, when they called my name and I walked across the stage, I remember it taking my breath away. Like, I remember stepping out, because I was the first person in my family to graduate from college. And so I remember it being so profound. Like, it was just overwhelming. And I remember when I walked out to get that medal, it took my breath away. So they were the same, because they were something I worked for and I accomplished. So they were 2 different things, but they had the same feeling of accomplishment.
All right. Okay, so let's talk about work ethic versus talent whenever talent doesn't have work ethic. Okay, so let's talk about this for a little bit, because at this table right now, you have a girl that was 5'4", a girl that's, I'm going to say 5'6", but I'm not. But I am so close. We're just going to go ahead and say it, okay? We fought in heavyweight. We do not look like, gladiators. We don't look like Ice in Tornado or Diamond or whatever from Gladiators, but we were both successful. And that's because we depend upon that statement of work ethic beats talent, especially when talent doesn't work. So I want you to talk about whenever you have a talented individual that does not have work ethic, what does that feel like to you as a coach?
I think, and I've actually talked about this with other coaches before, it's easier to take a non-athletic, not the best athlete in the room, kid or adult or whatever. It's easier to take them and turn them into a great athlete than it is to take a great athlete and make them better, because the person who has to start from ground zero isn't afraid to fail, because they fail so much along the way to become that great athlete. But oftentimes, the great athlete, it's hard to keep them motivated because they're motivated as long as they're the great athlete. But as soon as others catch up to them and they start feeling failure, they don't know how to handle it. And oftentimes that's a real struggle for them. You know, some work through it and move on, and some say, oh, you know, it's too hard, and then they quit. And so, and that's, I've talked to coaches from other sports, not just my own, and that seems to be pretty common, is it's easier, and I'm not saying that's the same for every sport, but the other coaches I've talked to have all said the same thing. It's easier to teach someone who starts with nothing than to keep motivated someone who starts with everything.
Okay. So I know that whenever I was a school teacher, man, if I had a student that was just trying so hard and they would make mistakes, you just wanted them to do so well. And then it seems like the kids that whenever it just came so easy, they didn't care. Like, because they were just like, yeah, okay, I'll probably study. Well, no, I probably won't. And they'll make like the highest grade. You know, it just seems like the people that struggle the most or have some horrific thing they've overcame or something they
seem to appreciate it. Yeah,
they do seem to appreciate it more. Okay, so we're going to talk about first time I met Miss Terry Gautreaux. Okay, so the first time I met her, I was actually on, I think I was on a TaeKwonDo team, or it was shortly after, but I had said I was mean. I was mean to Mrs. G.
In Aruba?
Oh, we do remember. Okay.
In Aruba?
Yes, in Aruba. Okay, so she was the team coach, and I didn't know her from nothing, you know, and here she is. I'm like a big girl, and she's a little girl, and then she was like, okay, we're going to go out there, we're going to fight, and then we'll come back, and we'll see what you got, you know, what you got to deal with, and then we go back out. So, like, it was like she was like the Energizer Bunny on caffeine, okay? Like, and I'm like, okay, well, in between rounds, just because you fight on the mat, and then in between the rounds, you get to go over there and you get to talk to your coach or get a drink of water or something, and then you come back for the next round, so you kind of get to, like, talk strategy. And I had made the statement to somebody, I didn't know she went to the Olympics, I didn't know she was a big deal, and I'm over here like, I'm the big deal right now, girl, I'm the one on the USA team, right? And I was like, she was like, okay, you ready to go? And I was like, look, in between the rounds, just get out of my chair and hand me my water. That's what I said to Terry, okay?
I remember that now.
And I said, okay, let's go.
Yeah. And you were like, all right. All righty then. Oh, my gosh. I think Aruba also, bless her heart, Terry loves to do yard work because it's like immediate gratification, okay? Well, she had apparently went up against a new kind of opponent, and that opponent was the weed eater. And I don't know what had happened, but that thing had got her leg, I don't know how many times, but she couldn't get away from it, and she was all cut up from the weed eater on her leg. What happened?
I was weed eating my yard, and I had to move something, so instead of turning it off, I just set it down because I didn't want to turn it off and have to restart it because it was just going to take a second. So I set it down. Well, then when I went to step over it, I tripped over it. And when I tripped over it, it hit the button to make it work, to make the little weed eater thing, the little string go. Yeah. And as I tripped over it, it just whipped my shin, not my shin, it whipped my calf, and just made a starburst all on the backside of my calf.
It looked like so much pain.
It was so painful.
Then to go along
and then I was home alone. My husband wasn't gone. And so I just limped and dragged that leg into my house thinking, oh my gosh, what do? I don't want to call anybody and tell them what I did.
Oh, yeah. So she had that nice little, current tattoo on her leg. Then I remember when we were coming home from Aruba, and I did well. I think I ended up getting silver there. I don't even know. Silver, it doesn't even matter now. Isn't that crazy? Like, man, I wanted that so bad, and I can't even remember if I got silver or bronze. I know I didn't get gold. She had one bathing suit on, and then she had bought another bathing suit. Well, it had moved in on that butt cheek just a little bit, and then she had kind of forgotten that, you know, part of that butt had seen sun and part of that butt had not seen sun. And so she had like a racing stripe on both sides, like a big old V racing stripe on her butt cheek. And she's trying to come home on the airplane and like, and then she's got the leg. She's just in pain everywhere. And I'm just laughing at her. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is too much. So,
and then you moved to Missouri.
Yeah, I moved to Missouri. That year I'd won nationals, and I'd went against this girl named Brenda. Now, Brenda, there's a picture that if you ever follow me on Facebook, Brandy Von Holten, and then it's my professional page, so if you're able to like it, you'll be able to go back and look through all my photos. But there's a picture from nationals that year where I'm on the gold first place podium, and Brenda's on second place, and she's still taller than me, even though I'm on a taller step. And then this other little girl, she's not little, she's taller than me. She's on third place, and she's taller than me. So, like, the podium, like, first place is up taller, then second's down, and then third's down. And they're both taller than me still, even though we're on the podium. But I remember that nationals because I went to do a spin kick, and I missed it. And I just took one step forward. And usually you're going to have to do something else. Like, you got to do another kick or a punch or something. But no, I did that same exact kick because nobody would have ever expected you to do it. And I landed that right up the side of her head, and it just was the dumbest thing in the world to do. But that's why I landed it, was because it was the dumbest thing in the world for somebody to do. Nobody's going to do that. And I'm like, oh, my God, I landed that. I mean, like, the whole competition could have been over right there because I landed the most stupid kick in the world upside of that tall girl's head. So I never said those words ever again to Mrs. G about like, yeah, in between to just give me my water and get out of my chair. Never said that. Now I'm all like, oh my gosh. I have another moment like that in my life also in the horse world where we went to this horse expo and I asked this guy to take a picture, but I wanted him to take a picture of David and I, like with our booth. Well, he was standing beside me and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, take the picture of David and this is my husband, okay? Turns out he's like internationally known, and he was like the main reason that like 30,000 people came to that expo. And he was young. He was younger, like under 35 or something. And then in the horse world, usually you gonna look like a cowboy. Well, he was from Australia and he had like tennis shoes on and a polo. So I just put him off as like some peon helping the real cowboy set up his booth. Oh no, he was the real cowboy. So I've done that. I'm just going to keep giving people humble sandwiches. Like, Here you go. I'm Brandy Von Holten, and here's your humble sandwich. I don't know you. Okay.
Yeah, but I think it's cool, like we have all these memories together, along with other people that were on the team, with you guys. Like, those are such great memories for at least, for our team. Those are such great memories. Mm-hmm. And, when I look back on training for the Olympics, because I was in college at that time. And when you said, was that graduating from college, that profound moment, it was, but because I was in the middle of training, and we talk about perspective and what's important. And I think that's what people need to remember is my college degree was important to me. It was important to me. I wanted to get that. That's why I stayed in school and did that. But I couldn't tell you a single person I graduated college with. I don't remember any of their names. But I can tell you every single person that helped me get to the Olympic on my competition team, on my sparring team, because those people meant so much to me in what I was accomplishing, not just in school, but outside of school as well. And so I think it's really important, and I think that goes with life. Sometimes you have to let go of what doesn't contribute to your success and make sure that you remember what does contribute to your success, and so those are the people that you end up doing life with, so it's so important, all the people that we had on those teams, right. Like they're great, like such great memories. And, we were all doing other things in life too. Mm-hmm. It's not like all we did was live at the TaeKwonDo school. But those people that go through those experiences with you, I mean, they mean something, and you look back and you think, wow, that's what helped me get here.
Well, I know for myself, like now with this horse industry that we have going on, and we've come up really fast because of everything that we're able to provide. But I know, like, now I've made friends with people, and then it turns out they were just using me because they wanted what they could get from me, or that, like a little bit of Facebook fame or something. I don't know. But I've ran, I'm over here like, with arms wide open, and like that song. And then I'm like, oh, we're going to be best friends forever. And then I'm like, wait, you're not calling me back. Wait. Oh, and then I'm like, oh my God, we weren't really friends. You were using me. Holy smokes. I'm a smart woman, and that had to happen to me at least 5 or 6 times. But my TaeKwonDo team, I call them my TaeKwonDo team. I am 41. I haven't done martial art. I mean, like, I've piddle-farted around with a couple of things, but like when we were actually on that team, at the time I was a school teacher, so I had to watch my mouth during the school day. But then at the TaeKwonDo school, I felt like, okay, finally I can be me. I can like kick stuff and say naughty words, and I can be me, so and then there was a whole group that was just like me. So like that's why it felt so good, and we were all trying to win these national and state titles and
cheering for each other.
Yeah.
And when you went against each other, you still fought like nobody's business, but then afterwards we all still went, had dinner together.
Yeah.
So I mean, you built each other up, and you have to make sure that everybody in your life is still doing that, building you up.
Well, now, like, even on social media and everything, like now whenever, if I'll post something like a couple of 100 people like it or something, then I'm like, oh, there's my TaeKwonDo friend. Like, they like that. Oh, my gosh, they're still watching me. So, like, and then here we are, you're on a podcast called Big Boss Mare with Brandy Von Holten, and I have, an EMT and a martial arts instructor in here, and it's over something that right now I'm on a 3-week rotation with somebody that's not in the horse industry, which is most definitely y'all, okay? Yeah. Oh, my God, you should see Terry try to pet a horse. She just like, if I stand still, it's like she thinks they're a bear. She's like, I'm just going to stand still. I'm going to stand still.
They just want to love on me, and I don't want to.
Oh, no. I think you would probably be afraid of a pony, like even the nice ones with like little ribbons. But so I'm on the 3-week rotation, non-horse person, then a horse person, and then myself talking about a topic. So, I don't know, it's just really nice to have the people I was friends with before the horse industry. And now I have weeded through some of those people that were bad, or not bad. They weren't bad. It's just that they weren't really they didn't deserve like a whole piece of my soul. And now I'm a lot more selective because I have met people that I'll be friends with for forever. Okay. Anyways, it's just nice to have that foundation there with us. So let's go to, you're 52 now, right? And David was like, well, what happened to 51? He's like, I remember 50. He's like, now she's 52. He's like, I don't remember 51. So, let's talk about, like, I've asked you, what are your goals for this year? So the Olympics 1992. I actually, a lot of times whenever I bring Terry along for things, I'm like, do you want me to tell him that you went to the Olympics? Because I don't want people to want to be around her for the shock value of like, oh my God, it's an Olympian. I want them to like her for the person that she is now. And usually we'll use the Olympian card whenever it's nice for people to be like, oh, it's a big deal. An Olympian has come around, like you're going around and there's like lights and feathers on you or something. Okay. The Olympian is here. But I don't know. I don't want people to just judge you from something that was 1992, because 2021 Terry's pretty cool too. Okay, so what do you have? Like right now, you had to get this hip and butt fixed. Okay,
hip.
I heard you say gluteus. That's your butt. You had to get your butt fixed.
Tendon on the side.
So what else are you wanting to? I mean, like right now, you're an avid runner. Like how many marathons have you done?
I started running marathons after the Olympics. So something people don't realize or they don't understand unless they've been in those shoes is when an athlete stops competing, when they stop, whether it's a professional athlete, it's an amateur athlete, when they stop doing something that they've identified with for so long, they lose part of their identity. And so that's a lot of times a struggle with professional athletes, when they stop their sport or they get injured or they have to quit or they choose to stop or whatever, and then they make tough decisions or the success isn't what it was, something happens. And a lot of times it's because people don't understand how stressful that is. It's stressful to be an athlete, but then when you lose that part of your identity, it is very, very difficult because you wonder who you are then. And so when I got done competing, I finished the Olympics, and then I had the Pan Ams, and then first I had the World University Games, then I had the Pan Ams. And I knew at that point that I was done. Like, I was good with what I had accomplished. I felt good about it.
So, hold on. Explain what the Pan Am Games are, because a lot of people have no idea they think you're talking about cooking spray. They think you're saying Pam. Pam Ann.
So I had the Olympics, and then I came home. And actually my goal was to go back to school, and I wanted to be a sports psychologist. That had made such an impact on my life.
I could see you doing that now.
Well, and then I got done with the Olympics, and I was like, okay, I'm feeling a little stressed right now. Like I'm full up on accomplishments right now. Like I don't think I can do anything else right now. And so I kind of took a little bit of time off and, relaxed, ate a few ice cream cones, and which didn't pan out so well when I had to compete at the World University Games, I came home from the Olympics the end of August. I think the World University Games might have been in October.
That's not very much time in between.
It was not. And I remember showing up to train. We all had to report to the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. And the first training session, so my coach didn't get to go with me. At that point, at least in our sport, you didn't get your own coach. You got whoever the team coaches were. TaeKwonDo, Korean sport, our coaches were always Korean. So we showed up to the Olympic Training Center, and I remember in the first training session, the coach coming over and saying, "Oh, you so fat. How you going to make weight?" And I remember thinking, oh, my gosh, for real? And so
you're like, I'm a girl, and I'm messed up in the head about my weight already. Right?
And so, but he was spot on because I had not maintained my weight, and man, did I have a hard time making weight at the World University Games. And they were in Mexico. They were in Guadalajara. And where we stayed in this resort, which had been a really cool place to stay in the mountains and at this resort if the resort had been open, but the resort was closed. And so here I am trying to cut weight. The resort's closed, so they don't have a whole lot of food. So I think we were fed beans and cheese the whole time and tortillas.
Well, that's one way to cut weight.
Yeah,
well, that doesn't sound like a way to cut weight. That sounds like packing them on for winter.
Right? Yeah. And so, but that was, again, we didn't always do things the right way all those years ago. So I had that competition. And then my next competition was the Pan American Games.
Okay, Pan American. So what is Pan? Panama?
So it was United States, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Central America, South America, Canada, maybe. I don't remember.
So that's just like North and South America. They call it the Pan Am Games.
Pan Am Championships.
Championships,
okay.
Yep.
And so competed at that. And was back on target. That one was a good competition, made weight, all that kind of stuff. But I knew at the end of that was it. I was done. I was ready to move on into something else.
Like stick a fork in you.
Yeah, I was ready to go.
And you're like, I'm going to do marathons. Might as well.
So I got done competing, and then the next year, I think when our team went to nationals, I went to watch, and it was really hard. Like, it was really hard to watch my division because I wanted to be there, but I didn't want to be there. I wanted to compete, but I didn't really want to compete.
It's your identity.
Yeah. And so I didn't go for a couple of years. So I went to the Olympics in 92. 96 is when I started our TaeKwonDo team. And so I found what I needed in coaching all those kids and seeing their success. But then I knew I still needed something for myself. I needed something. So somebody had said, I had always done a lot of running because that's how I kept my weight down. That was part of my weight management, was miles and miles of running. And so someone said, you should do a 5K. So I did a 5K, and I was like, okay, that was okay. And then somebody said, well, you should do a 10K. So I was like, okay, I'll do a 10K. And then someone said, you should do a marathon. You should do a half marathon. And so I did a half marathon, and I thought, well, if I can do a half marathon, I can do a full marathon. And so that just started it. And so, and I did that. And the funny thing is when I was doing that, I have never trained so hard for something that I knew I was not going to win. Like, I knew there was no way I was going to win the marathon. I wasn't even going to win my age bracket.
Okay, you know, I've never ever thought about winning a marathon until right now. I'm like, because I just thought, just finish it.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you talking about winning?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Like,
There's a winner?
I know. I didn't even know there was. Didn't even know there was a winner.
I just thought you finished it, and congrats.
And you got a medal,
Yeah.
and you got your race bib. I didn't know that people won them.
I didn't know.
But if you always did something, if you were always in a sport and your goal was always to win, and then I was running those marathons, I was training, and I was doing so good because on the 5Ks and the 10Ks, I could usually place in my age division. Like, I did pretty good. And I think I did pretty good on the half. And then I got to that doing that full, and then I started researching it because I didn't know anything about it. And I'm thinking, you have to run how fast? What? The winners? Oh, my gosh, I'm training all this, and I'm not going to win? There's not even a chance I'm going to win. So then my perspective
We're
changed.
in different worlds.
now I need to
moment.
Google, like, who wins marathons.
I didn't
Like,
Wow. Okay.
So then, you know, it became part of your mindset changes. Like, you want to do the best you can, and here's your goal, and here's what you want to make it in. But finishing it was you had so much pride in yourself that you finished that, and that's what kept me going. Is I loved the training. The worst day was the marathon day, because most marathoners if you ask them, they'll tell you, you know, the first part of the marathon, at least the first, which is why I don't do 5Ks or 10Ks anymore, because the first 10K that you run in a marathon, the whole thing you can think about is how much you hate this. Why in the world are you even doing this? Why are you doing this? It's not even fun. I'm never going to do it again. And then you get past that point and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm almost to the finish. 20 miles, I only have 6 left. And then you're just so excited. And then you get to the end and you're just like, dang, that was awesome. I can't wait to do it again. And so.
Okay,
yeah.
so, all right, listen up here, Big Boss Mayor listeners. I'm going to tell you about the time I did a half marathon. Okay, so I did a half
I was
marathon.
there. I did the marathon. You did the half and I did the full.
Yeah, you did the full in like hours less time than I did the half.
But you finished.
Yeah, and I hate myself for it, okay? So I did this half marathon, and it comes down to the last couple of miles, and I knew that I needed to park my truck on the other side so I couldn't quit. I had to park it on the other side, so, like, I would have to freaking finish that thing, or because I know myself. I was like, yeah, I'm going to get that medal, and, like, you get a finisher medal. Like, I literally was excited about this finisher medal because it's a big deal, okay? Well, I think there's like 3 or 4 miles left, and this volunteer came up with some jazzercise energy and was like, come on, you can do it. I mean, she was like within my 10-inch bubble, and then I cussed her, and I'm like, get the out of the right the you right. Okay, so like some woman has nightmare flashbacks from trying to pump me up one time, okay, because I was to the point of I just didn't care about life anymore. Okay, that's where I was at on that half marathon, and I was so mad at myself for parking my truck where I couldn't quit. And I finished that, and I was so mad. I'm
That's how I felt about Miss G making us run Saturday mornings.
Oh,
God.
it was just a parking lot.
Exactly.
Oh,
That's the point.
that's how mad you
Yes.
were.
Remember we had to run around the, what was it, the cemetery? We had to do that
Yeah.
sometimes. Yeah. Oh, God. I hated it.
There's
I was
some
like,
of
why
my-
do I even do this? Why do I even like her so much? I hate this.
You know, there's part of my DNA on that route from throwing up and stuff
Oh,
like that.
throwing up, my sweat and tears on that road. Jesus.
But man, now looking back, I'm like, yeah, I'm happy I did a half marathon. Do I want to do another one? I will have to have more time pass so I forget. I've got to forget how much I hated
How bad
that.
it was.
Yeah, I mean, or if I ever when I weigh like 199 one of these days, maybe I'll do a half marathon to be like, oh yeah, it's so much better now.
I hear a goal coming.
Yep.
I don't
She
know.
said it, everyone. She said it.
I can do a 5K any day because I know I can walk it. Okay, like I know that they'll give me enough time that I could just walk my little chubby butt down and do my little 5K and be done with it, okay, and like jog a little bit. I know, so 5K, I always keep my bibs and stuff. David has come and done 5Ks, and he doesn't train at all. My husband, that's 170 pounds all the time, right? And he'll be like, I got to pass that old person that keeps on passing us. And he will go and run a 5K, hasn't ran since the last 5K. It could be like 2 years before that. Anyways, he just makes me so mad. Okay, so one time our TaeKwonDo team decided to do a marathon relay. So it's a marathon.
That was so fun.
We're in different worlds. Okay. So I'm going to tell you, so a marathon relay, how long is a marathon anyways? 26?
26.2.
Point two. Don't forget that
That
point
point two.
Because, girl, when you're at 26 and you got to do that point two, it probably feels like 8 miles. Okay? I'm never going to know. I'll just put that there. But I remember we took this marathon and divided it up between 4 people on each team. And I remember one girl, she was, 16, 17, 18, and she needed her mom's cell phone. So she put it in between her boobs. She got boob sweat underneath the screen, and it was there for like 3 months. And I'm like, that's disgusting. I'm like, somebody get this girl a new phone because her daughter's boob sweats underneath the screen. And then, okay, so marathoners, they give you some Vaseline, and you can be running past and get you a scoop of Vaseline, put it in between your thighs, because sometimes your thighs get to rubbing, they'll get to bleeding, okay? That's nasty to think about it. Well, they also give you some food along the way, and I remember they had those. This person was in front of me, and I laughed so hard that I ran so hard to keep up with her so I could watch this girl struggle, because she got a vanilla wafer and then this huge bowl that had to have like 5 pounds of Vaseline in it. She thought it was Cool Whip with that vanilla wafer. So she took that big old vanilla wafer, scooped it into that Vaseline, and then ate it while she's running. So then this lady is like, and like I kept up with her. I puked because I was running so hard to keep up with her because I was laughing. I mean, we're talking about a mile and a half. She's still trying to scrape her tongue because she had ate Vaseline. She thought it was. Who would be like, oh my gosh, they've got
marathon.
I'm gonna get some Cool Whip on my vanilla wafer. Oh my gosh. I will forever remember that. So your goals for 2021, because it is January 2nd while we're recording this, but I have to record and then do the edits, and then it's always like a month or 2 afterwards, typically whenever the podcast comes up. So right now is goal setting time, and you told me you have 2 goals.
Right now, there's 2.
Yeah, so little Miss Olympian that came back and was all like, I got my degree, I got this, I got that, and right now, your goals change whenever you get older. Okay, so tell us these 2 goals.
So I'm on crutches right now. I got 2 more weeks of crutches before they'll start weaning me off the crutches. I haven't been able to put any weight on my right leg, so I've actually added a goal since I talked to you last. I have 3 goals now.
Okay.
1, I want to be able to walk.
Okay.
So walking is an important goal right now.
Yeah.
2, I want to be able to walk up the stairs with my right leg.
Okay.
So right now it's only left leg. I got to drag that right leg. And then I want to be able to run. So they said that the recovery for this type of injury, because I had the tendon on the hip on the side.
But y'all go back and listen to the beginning of the podcast. She said the word gluteus.
So because I had that tear, it's made it made the surgery and the recovery a little bit harder. And so the doctor gave me an 85% recovery success, and I'm just not good with 85%.
You're like, hello, 101.
Yeah,
101.
Yeah. So I have an amazing physical therapist, and so in 2 weeks we get to start weaning me off the crutches, and then I'm going to be better than 85%. That's my goal.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, so if somebody wanted to train with Terry Gautreaux and Oren Gautreaux, and now, we've done this podcast and we have not talked about your husband. Now, your husband, will you tell them just a few things that he won? Because not unfortunately, it's just what it is. He's older than her, and they did not have the Olympics whenever he was at his prime in March. So they had just the world championships.
Just the world's no big deal.
Just the world. Yeah, nothing. Just the planet.
Yeah.
Okay. So what did he? Because he fought and won. Correct. Will you go ahead and take this?
So he was a 4-time national champion, but in our sport, and I'll come back to this because it's kind of unique what he did. In our sport, like you pick a weight division, like we talked about weight divisions. I started in bantam and then decided to drop to fly, and then I stayed in fly. There were lots of people who, back in those days, as they grew, like perhaps they were successful in one weight division, but they started to grow, but they had so much political pull in the lower weight division that they would stay in that lower weight division. They would just cut weight because that's just what we did back then. Now you'll see athletes as they grow change weight divisions. They don't try to maintain the same as, I feel like, as much as we did back then. So my husband started, and he started in flyweight. But when he first started, he was 16, 17. Well, as he grew, he changed weight divisions. He didn't stay in that weight division because he was really tall and thin. And so he won nationals 4 years in a row in 4 different weight divisions.
Okay,
so that's
so
pretty
it's nationals,
that's awesome.
not world.
well. So then he was on the U.S. team, and he fought all over the world. He medaled. He took 3rd in the world championships. I can't remember. I know he fought in the Pan Ams. I know he fought in the pre-world championships. So he fought all over. So he was a decorated athlete as well. Fought in Germany, fought in Korea. So,
And it's so because he's
and when he was on the team, there was
Yeah.
not a women's team. Only men. There was only a men's taekwondo team. And I want to say the last year he competed, they started the women's team, but there were only a couple of women on the team. It wasn't a full team.
So here's this man, Oren Gautreaux, and he's in his 60s now, right?
Correct.
Beginning 60s, and you're in your early 50s. And man, here is his wife that got the bronze medal, but then he is just as decorated. But see, time has passed a little bit,
Absolutely.
and people, man, they come on board because here's Terry with her bronze medal, but that man was a bad mamma jamma.
Right.
He was a bad mamma jamma in all sorts of weight divisions. Actually, if they would have had the Olympics, he would have done well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel sorry for him that he wasn't born a little bit later, so he would have had that opportunity. But that's just the time frame that he had.
But on the flip side, when you look back, and it's only for martial artists who are involved enough to look back at the history of martial arts. Now, you're covered head to toe in safety gear. It can't be any more safe than it is right now, which I think is why there's, for the most part, with the new electronic system, there's less knockouts, than there were before. In my generation, that was, that was common. Someone got knocked out, but in his generation, it was really common. But that's because his generation started, they didn't even wear headgear. So they didn't wear headgear. They didn't wear chest guards. They had pads on their arms and legs. I don't even think they had it on their feet. So he wore a groin protector and pads on his arms and his forearms and his shins, but that was it. And then later on, they came up with this bamboo hogu, bamboo.
Yeah, it's a good way to break your toe.
Right?
And so,
imagine legs just snapping.
Yeah, so you'll see the pictures of the first groups that fought in the world championships, and they didn't have any safety gear. Maybe they didn't even have a mouthpiece.
Oh my
I don't
God,
know.
it's like blood sport,
Right. And so while that generation missed out on the Olympic Games and things like that,
they get to have the real fun.
yeah, look at the history they had. And when you
Yeah.
look at those old pictures, I remember him talking about when they fought in, I want to say they were in Korea, and he said it was so hot inside the gym, it was 150 degrees inside that gym where they were fighting, and today, the athletes for the most part are more spoiled. They would never fight in that, oh my gosh, it's going to be too hot, they were just this is what we do. This is the way it is.
Gosh. I remember one time Mr. G came over to, I think you had to do something, and it was called Elite, the Elite team, because you had martial arts classes that you taught, and then you had the Elite team, and we were the ones that went and competed at places. Well, Mr. G was trying to, help us out with some mental psychology, and he told us, whenever you step in that ring, you just think, I'm going to die. And he's like, and you go in there and be like, this is it. There's nothing after this, and you need to fight. And I'm like, I don't think this. Like, where's Mrs. G at? Where's Terry?
You just think when he was fighting, like, I mean, when you talk about someone getting beat, they got beat up.
I'm all like, I don't think you're connecting on the level that you think you are. Okay.
She's nicer. Where is she?
Well, it's not just nicer, but I was like, I don't want to think about dying in the ring. I just want to beat this girl. I want her to cry a little bit, maybe, and I just want to beat her. Okay. And
then we're gonna high five and move on to the next round.
Yes. Yay! I beat you. Ha ha. Nanny nanny boo boo. Okay. So if somebody wanted to train with you, or how do they get in touch with you?
Our school's in Blue Springs. It's Gautreaux Martial Arts.
Now spell Gautreaux, because ain't nobody gonna be able to spell it. You're gonna need a pen and make sure that it's got ink in it to write this last name. Okay.
So it's GAUTREAUX''S.
Okay, because y'all own it.
Gautreaux Martial Arts, and it's in Blue Springs. Our number is 816-229-6611.
Okay, 229-6611. Oh, y'all all about some doubles on that one. And then, what about a website or anything?
We're on Facebook, Gautreaux Martial Arts, and we're on Instagram as well.
Okay, so Gautreaux Martial, and if you want to get in touch with them, you can ask me, because you're on my podcast listening to it, so you can most definitely contact me, and I can get you in touch with them.
Yeah, and I was going to say something, because you had mentioned earlier about, when we meet somebody, when you introduce me or something. Because I have lots of people because I don't, if I meet somebody for the first time, like, I don't ever say anything about the Olympics. Like, I just don't. And then when they find out, they're like, oh my gosh, why didn't you tell me? And I'm like, well, that'd be a little weird. Hi,
I'm Terry. I went to the Olympics.
I'm an Olympian.
I'll be signing autographs later.
Because it's so weird, but they're like, oh, but that's such a big accomplishment. And I'm like, yeah, but I accomplished lots of things. You know, I've accomplished more in my life than just that. That was like one little amazing moment in time, and then I continue on. And I think people need to remember that, like, your life doesn't end at some point, right. and as parents, you are your child's first role model. You're how they learn to set goals and achieve them. So sometimes as parents, we think, oh, we can't set and achieve goals because our goals are our children, which is true. My goal was my children as well, but I needed to make sure I was setting goals and achieving goals, so that they saw me do that, so that they never felt like there was something they couldn't do. And so I think that's really important. And a funny note, because the kids who work for me now weren't around during the Olympic time, and they, for the most part, weren't on the elite team, the kids that I have working for me. And the one boy that works for me now, he just always cracks up, because if someone finds out I went to the Olympics, they're like, oh my gosh, that is so exciting. Did you win a medal? And I'm like, yeah, I won a bronze. And the reaction, I always get the same reaction. And I'm never offended by it. But Zach is always just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they said that. But the reaction's always the same. I'll be like, I got a bronze medal. And they're like, oh, well, bronze is still good. And I'm like, the first time Zach ever heard somebody say that to me, he was just like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, they don't mean that. It's just that in their mind, an Olympian looks like Michael Phelps. Right. An Olympian doesn't look like me. Right. So they're caught off guard, and then they're caught off guard that I got a medal, and then they just don't know what to say, so they just are like, oh.
It's still good. High five.
Yeah, right. Way to go. It's still good. And so I'm just like,
what a weird thing to say. Like, really, oh my gosh, she got beat by 2 people, and be like, no, I actually only got beat by 1. But yeah, that just cracks me up whenever people say that to you. Because, I've been around whenever they've said that, and I'm like, you're crazy. I know. Okay, so we're running. I'm going to tell you one more Terry Gautreaux story, okay? So, I was in the hospital because I had a tumor removed from my breast, and then I had ended up forming a blood clot in my leg, and that thing broke off, went through my heart. Okay, so that's not the story. The story is that I was in recovery. Oh, you know what? I don't. I was in the hospital.
That was in the emergency room.
Yeah. Okay. Back up. It was not that time. It was another time whenever I got whiplash. Okay. So this older lady comes in. Terry's with me, and here I am. You know, I'm a heavyweight fighter. I've fought internationally. I've won national championships. I've been to USA team trials, Pan Am team trials, all this stuff, right? Fought at the Olympic Training Center. So this lady comes in, and she thinks that I need to get healthy, okay, because I'm a thicker person. And she gives me a flyer over mall walking. Stop it. And she was all like, you know, you should start exercising. And if you walk in the mall, it's heated and air conditioned, but you've got to get started on some physical fitness. And here I am. I was the captain of our elite fighting team, and the only person in the room with me is Terry Gautreaux. And I'm just like, you know what? That is such a good idea. Let me take this flyer. And I'm like, I'm going to snap her neck. Oh, my gosh. And Terry, whenever that lady walked out, Terry was like, oh, my God.
Mall walking of all things.
No, she wanted me to start. Like, she judged this book. She was like, look at that book. That book don't do nothing. That book is just fat. She don't know how to exercise. And I'm over here like, ah. And then it was just funny because I didn't correct her, you know, because what's
the point?
Yeah, there's no point in correcting them. It's kind of like, I don't know, I kind of put her in the same category of the people being like, well, third place is still good,
still
honey.
Good. It's still good.
High five. You know.
Better luck next time.
Okay, so you can look her up on Facebook, Instagram. You can go to if you just use your Dr. Google. Okay, Dr. Google, you can type in Gautreaux's Martial Arts. She's in Blue Springs. This right here is the reason that I moved from Arkansas to Missouri without any family member. I moved here with enough money for 1 month worth of rent and 2 weeks worth of food and fuel money without a job. She's the reason I moved, because I wanted to. I know. And then it worked out, you know, well, because it had to, or I was going to live in a box.
No other option but up.
I know. We were started from the bottom, now we're here. So this right here is why you're getting to listen to Big Boss Mare with Brandy Von Holten, and I live here in Missouri, is because of Terry Gautreaux. All right. Thank you for tuning in to Big Boss Mare with Brandy Von Holten.